It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for ProtoGT action here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacingLive. You voted for it, and therefore we're bringing it to you every week of the season. Will Vincent here, along with Joris Phelan. We are currently under qualifying for round number 2 of the championship here at sunny Silverstone. I say sunny, but it's actually pretty windy out here today. 20 kilometer an hour winds. We've got ourselves about 5 minutes of qualifying remaining. And yours, before we talk it on air today, we were really thinking about the fact that track position in your LMP field is going to be so important, because overtaking traffic isn't difficult. Overtaking your fellow cars, well, that's going to be even harder today.
Yeah, because of the high downforce corners here at the historical track of Silverstone, it's very difficult to stay behind another car through the corners, and especially if you have other classes in the mix, which will make it even more difficult. It's very important to have track position and to keep that track position. So I think it's going to be very interesting how the cars will go through the traffic here.
We've got our 3 classes of cars as ever. Most of them have now done their qualifying laps, and that means we have ourselves some good opportunity to start running you through your starting grid for this evening. And we'll start in your LMP field, and well, it is the Hondas who are of course the LMP field. Antoine Hegelin pole position, Lando Norris there in the second place for Club UK and Ireland, Diego Cormini in 3rd place, and Gabor Mex in 4th, Joris.
Then if we want to go to GT1, we have Alexander Vos in 1st place, as we know him, Dustin Hickman in 2nd, Niels Koch in 3rd, the first Corvette with Rens Broekman in 4th, and Jesus Cecilia in 5th.
And then we'll cycle on back. All those grids are now coming up on your screen. And the interesting thing to note today, Joris, it is going to be some fantastic, fast-paced racing.
Yep, it's a very fast track, as we told before, especially with the 2 slower chicanes removed with this historical layout. It's going to be a very fast track, especially through the Magus Beckett, of course, and then the Hanger Straight. It's going to be very interesting to see him.
Yeah, and that action will be coming up literally in just 1 moment's time. We'll be back with more after this.
simulate.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Currently working ourselves on the pace lap here at Silverstone, getting ourselves ready then for the start of this event behind the new iRacing safety car that is now, of course, a roof. We said goodbye to the old Ford Mustang a couple of weeks ago. So, 60 minutes worth of racing here today with these three classes, and traffic is going to be the key talking point. How will these LMP cars work themselves through the traffic? There you can see your LMP field. I'm just having a look back now at your GT1 field. Of course, they've got the Chevrolet Corvette and the Aston Martin DB there getting themselves to do battle. And then, of course, the third of our classes, got ourselves the Ford GT. There, we just zoom in on there, you can see your GT2 field now. Not much of a gap right now between your GT1 and GT2 fields. That isn't really going to cause much of an issue though, Joris.
Well, it depends on the back markers of the GT1 field. I know the front runners of the Ford GTs are usually quite fast, especially here, because on top speed there's not a big difference, but through the corners that can be very difficult.
So working themselves now into Luffield. Pace car in a moment's time will take that right-hand turn on towards pit road, and it will put the field in the command of Antoine Hegelin to get ourselves ready for racing for 60 laps. Pace cars in. And we're underway. Lots of action early on as we now cycle it back to have a look at your GT2 and GT3 fields as they now get themselves underway, Joris.
Yeah, and I see immediately to go side by side through gaps in the GT2 field, which is always very interesting to see. But everything else is quite clean. It's a very clean start in all three classes, and I hope we will keep a clean race throughout.
We've had ourselves one early incident by the looks of it. We're going to ride on board, though, with the driver of Antoine Hegelin, running himself out front there in that number 7 machine, working now through the club corner, that long, sweeping club corner, of course. It's very fast here, and let's listen in. Flat out all the way through the Abbey chicane. And a half-second gap already. That's interesting, Joris. He's pulling out in the start of this motor race over Lando Norris. Norris isn't falling too far back, but that Deutsche Poster car needs to get a move on in the early part of this event.
I noticed during practice, because I did some laps as well with the GT1 and GT2 cars, that some of the HPTs were running different aero packages. Some were running high downforce, others were running medium downforce. And maybe it depends on if they're running a different setup, depending on where they will get their speed. So that can be interesting later throughout the race.
Yeah, as we cycle back and have a look in your GT1 field, and there is the gap between Alexander Voss leading the way and the driver in second place who we ride on board with now. That is Rens Brokerman in the number 1 machine. Gap is 7/10 of a second. Voss putting away to an early advantage, but Brokerman behind has got himself a little company, and that is Niels Koch there in the number 4 machine, only 2/10 of a second back as they work themselves down the hangers straight away. Passing will be difficult here today because the best overtaking opportunity was actually, well, one of them was into Stowe that we just saw there, but Niels Koch almost running into the rear of Rens Brokerman.
Yeah, and we know that the core guys are very fast in the GT classes, so especially and with Rens running there as well, it can be a very interesting battle. And meanwhile, we saw an HPD going off track, but he didn't hinder the rest of the GT1 field, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, as we have side by side in your race lead in GT2 right now. Alex Rebel versus Marco Mogren. They go side by side through Club down in towards the Abbey chicane they come as well. The question's going to be, who's going to get it? Battle for the race lead and off onto the grass will go Marco Mogren, and he's going to lose himself 6 places easily as a consequence.
And meanwhile, the SimRC guy, I forgot the name, took advantage of it and went from 4th to 2nd. It's a very good and clean racing of that guy. I have to see who it is actually. It's Maximilian Cheater. I raced against him last week, and yeah, it's a very smart racing by him. Just keep your heads up and be calm.
Yeah, replay there from Marco Mogren's position. There you can see 1, 2, 3 positions. It's not as bad as you thought there. He did lose 3 positions as a consequence down into Bridge Corner, but now down into 4th place, and it does allow Maximilian Schneider to move himself up into the 2nd position just for the time being. So the action, it's running up there. Nick Thisson's down a position as well. You'll see him 4th in shot in that number 29 machine. There you can see that all black car, and running himself in that 4th position as it stands right now, and he's under pressure now from Mogren, who's trying to bounce back. So all of the action is happening in your GT2 field in the early stage of this event. We've got a bit more calmness in your, more calmness in your GT1 field. Actually, we've got side by side, almost 2 wide, 2 deep, as they headed themselves there down into Bridge Corner, and a car off as well. That looks to be one of the, that's the number 5 machine actually, Jürgen Frank, so another one of those Sim RC drivers just going off at Bridge Corner.
Yeah, I think there we have the difference between the Corvette and the Aston Martin, and I have a feeling that Rens was very fast during the start, but he started to, the difference in pace started to be shown after 1 or 2 laps, and we noticed that the SMRC guys start to get their tires up to pressure, and they can power through, because I think Rens dropped from 2nd to 4th in 2 or 3 laps.
There is Jürgen Frank in 7th place now in your GT1 field. So all the action is happening at the start of this motor race. The top 3 on the left-hand side of your screen. Andy DeRuta losing a place there to Donald Piazza. Down in P number 19, so the very rear of your LMP field. Let's go back then for a moment and have a look at what's going on in GT2, because Mogren's continuing to try and push to move himself back up higher inside of your top 5, but he's struggling. He's still behind, I say still behind Nick Thissom, almost trying to mate there with Nick Thissom through Beckett.
And we're going to see that quite a lot this race, I'm afraid. Rear-ending the cars is very easy, especially going through that high-speed section where you don't know if the guy in front of you is going to make a small dab of the brakes or not. You have to be very careful there. I'm surprised Nick dropped back that far, because I know that he's he's a calm driver. He knows how to handle pressure, but it doesn't turn out to be true this time.
Yeah, as you can see, the Radical Steel Series number 24 machine of Mogren in that 5th place on the exit of Club Corner, and now that run down in towards what should be the Abbey chicane. Once again, of course, it's not in the layout that we're using here this evening. Brokeman versus Dustin Hickman, 0.2 of a second, 3rd place in your GT1 field. Going to ride a couple of corners on board then with the driver of Jens Brokeman. This is Maggots and Beckett's. Well, I got nicely through there, but you were just mentioning a moment ago the difference between the Chevy and the Aston Martin here today, Joris. I want to go into a bit more detail, because this is the only class where we've got 2 different cars competing in the same category.
Well, I drive the Corvette in the Neo series, and my feeling, I don't know if it's true, but my feeling is that the Aston has a bit more corner speed. It is a bit more easier to make it rotate mid-corner. That means that for the Corvette it's usually more of a stop-and-go car. Here it handles while he's trying to make a move on Dustin, and he actually forces him into a mistake, a small one, but yet still. The Corvette is a bit, it needs more braking room. That's one of the most disadvantages of the car. but the top speed is a bit better. So you have to pick your moments like usual. It's the same for the Aston Martin, by the way. They have to pick their moments to overtake a car if they're behind the Corvette. So I think both cars are quite balanced overall. Maybe this track suits the Aston Martin a bit more.
But yeah, I was going to say that in terms of the first sector then, through Beckett to Maggots, that would favour the Aston Martin, because that Corvette needs to be slower and have a longer braking point into the corners. That will always favour the Aston Martin. But on the flip side of it, that Corvette, if it gets a good run out of Chapel Corner, should have the brute force then to try and pass down on the inside into Stowe.
It should be, as we look here as Rens tries again, but we notice then that the Aston can brake tiny bit later, and that negates the advantage again. So it's very difficult for a Corvette to overtake. You have to have a very good exit out of Chapel before you can make that move into Stowe.
Right on board then. Rens Brokerman still in that fourth place here today. Let's go back and check in with your LMP field for the moment. There's Lando Norris working himself through quite a bit of LMP2 traffic, and this is the one thing that we've always been worried about coming into this event. How will the LMP drivers deal and cope with this slower traffic? The GT2 field should be okay. The GT1 field is where we're really going to get some potentially hair-raising moments later on this evening, Joris.
Yeah, it does, and especially in top speed. I think the top speed of both the GT1 and the HPTs are quite even. While the GT2s are, I think, 5 kph down in top speed, so that's quite easy to negate. But also the GT1s are a bit faster through the corners as well. They have a bit of downforce, not as much as the HPTs, of course. So I think that the easiest way to overtake for an HPT is going into a corner under a high braking zone, because there's where the HPT can make up a lot of ground.
We are seeing some fantastic racing from our aerial coverage, brought to you by And1 Design. This is the number 21 machine, is the blue and pink car, and the number 40 machine of Neil Andrews. They were side by side into Vale around a GT2 car. So you talk about big risk, big reward. We're seeing it here early on in this event, as there Neil Andrews is now currently half a second ahead of Jason Gerard, but those gaps mean nothing with the amount of traffic they are going to have to deal with over the course of this event. Gabble Mex, about 5 tenths to a second, right now behind Lando Norris. Battle for P3 LMP.
I also think that Lando lost a few seconds going through the traffic there, and had to give up the position to Diego Comuni into second.
Yeah, of course, Lando started on the outside of row number 1. He is now actually 1.7 seconds behind Diego Comini, so he's dropping back there. But Comini, we know this driver is going to be fast, and we're going to end ourselves in one of these classic battles of Team GT versus the Radicals Online team. And this is the sort of thing we're going to be seeing all season long. Antoine Heglin, number 7 team. Sorry, I say Radicals Online. I mean, of course, Apex Racing. There is the Apex Racing machine of Antoine Heglin. But we're going to see battles like this all season with the likes of Heglin and Comini and Norris really putting themselves in. Daniel Benefield, by the way, is up into 5th place in this event right now. So not a bad start there for the number 19 machine, running himself in that 5th position. We're going to show you your movers and shakers in this event so far, and you will notice there that Benefield is one of those drivers who is up position, started 6th, now running in 5th. Neil Andrews up 4 places, and Matthew Prudhomme is your biggest mover inside your top 10 in terms of your LMP field. You then have a look over into your GT1 field. It is pretty similar overall. There you can see Alex van der Vos up 1 place. Got some movers and shakers going up there as well. But for the most part, we haven't had too much in terms of incidents. Andy DeRuta, Heza Cecilia, and Carlo Labatti are the drivers out. Big shame to see someone like Heza Cecilia out so early on in this event, Joris.
Yes, he's a very well-known name, and he always entertains us. Let us say it like that. He can be sometimes be a bit aggressive, but sometimes it's the positive aggressive side, and sometimes it can be just a bit too much towards the risk part. But that's something you have to learn, and I notice he learned quite a bit the last few seasons. So I'm a bit sad he's out of the race already.
Running on board with P number 2, Alex Rebel versus Maximilian Schneider there. Through the stadium section at Silverstone. Let's ride a lap on board with the driver in second place, trying to take a wider line into Luffield to make that run through the corner better. Wasn't able to do so. We ride on board of him in the hunt of GT2 race lead. Wasn't able to do anything that lap. That's your ongoing battle in GT2. Still got this battle going on because Lando Norris has caught up now to the rear of Diego Comini. Battle for P2 in LMP. And Norris will go around there perfect, using the traffic as a pick.
Yeah, there you see where traffic comes into play already, and it's very difficult to make that decision. Should I go for the gap or should I just stay behind? But then you risk losing the place, and I'd say let the place go and try to gain it back through your own pace instead of trying to risk to take out 2 or 3 cars at the same time.
Yeah, and that was opportunistic there by Lando Norris, but he could see the gap, and then he was able to work and navigate it around effectively. Well, some would argue that's why he might win the RDC Awards. Lando Norris up into second place now in your field, and last time by he was almost a second faster than your race leader Antoine Hegelin. Hegelin has had traffic, so now Lando Norris has the opportunity to try and pounce.
Yet still Antoine managed to increase the gap to second place for him, because Diego Comini dropped back, of course. At the start of the lap, he was 1 second ahead of Diego, so he gained some time there. Let's see how he can manage the rest of the traffic.
Yeah, and there is your top 8 then for each of your classes. Cycling through bottom of your screen in LMP, it's Antoine Hegelin from Lando Norris, Diego Comini, Gabon Mex, Daniel Betterfield, Carlos Viegas, Neil Andrews and Jason Gerard are your top 8 as it stands. Then into GT1, that is up on your field. Alexander Voss versus Niels Koch is something that we need to start paying attention to here, because these two are still looking close. However, Lando Norris has cut that gap down to almost nothing in terms of your overall race lead. We're on board with the driver of Lando Norris, and here he is then, right, looking to make the move down into Maggot. She cannot make a move down there at all, Joris, but he gave it a go.
Yeah, he was boxed in actually by the GT1 there. There's nothing that the GT1 could do, but Lando just had to keep his foot planted, and it didn't turn out, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, and the gap then ekes up for a moment to 0.6 of a second, late on the brakes for Lando Norris. That's the sort of aggressiveness that you need to do in your LMP field. Ironically, they just worked themselves past that GT1 battle we were just talking about.
Yeah, I think they had a very good and clean run through there, because they catched them at exactly the right time. And we do notice though that the gap between position 1 and position 2 in GT1 has decreased a tiny bit, but those two are teammates, so not big of a problem there.
Yeah, as the gap remains about 0.8 of a second in GT1, 0.8 of a second in LMP2, and in GT2, well, that gap is 0.6 of a second. So we've got close battles going on in each of your class leads here. Who said Silverstone's a boring racetrack to go to, guys? This is always a good track for racing. Of course, as soon as you kind of exit this track and the World Endurance Championship, everyone starts thinking about Le Mans. Right now, we're thinking, well, we're only 2 rounds into a season, and already the action looks to be spectacular.
Yeah, I think with multiple classes, you always have some kind of action going on the track, and that's something that really attracts me to real life multi-class racing as well, be it IMSA, being the WEC, be it ALMS, yeah, the old one then.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see. You always have action, and with different kind of cars, it's something that attracts certain different kind of people as well.
Yeah, remaining on board with Lando Norris. This is going to be an opportunity. Yeah, he's right now alongside. Now, he needs to try and use this traffic ahead of him if he's going to try and make it work. He's done it once before. Can he do it again? The answer is yes, he is. Round the outside will Lando Norris go. And you can see that one coming from about 500 meters away. Lando Norris uses traffic perfectly to his advantage and moves himself to the race lead. And I was joking about it just a moment ago, but this is why Lando Norris has won the McLaren Autosport BRDC Award for 2016 right there in this event here, Joris. That shows the class of driver he is.
Yeah, he already had practice, of course, the previous lap, and it's a very good move to do. But the second for GT there had to be very careful, because he had to look inside in his mirror while going for his own corner, and if he couldn't do that, it might have gone bad. It's difficult to do. Very good heads-up racing for both drivers, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it all came down to the fact that at the point they entered Bridge Corner, Antoine Hegland did have a difficulty. He could have just let off the gas a little bit and tried to tighten up that apex to give him the outside line. But the way his natural trajectory was, he was always going to have to check up. And that was just a perfect opportunity. He's done it a couple of times in the space of 5 laps, and now Lando Norris leads his motor race, but the gap is back down to 1 second. Fantastic stuff between these two. Oh yeah, it's also a second right now between Niels Koch and Alexander Vosch in terms of your GT1 battle as well. 2 Aston Martins going at it in terms of your GT1 race lead. And of course, let's just say 2 teammates going at it in terms of your GT1 race lead.
Yeah, it is. I have to say also that I'm very respectful towards Anton Hegland there, because he had to really back down from that move, and he knew that he was going to lose the position, and yet he still kept to his line. He didn't do any risky move. He just thought, well, maybe I can catch him later and see where it goes later on in the race. We also have the pit stops going up somewhere in the next 30 minutes to 45 minutes, so that's going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, there we are. 1.3 seconds, so that one is just calming itself down for the moment. GT2 battle for your race lead once again. Let's have a look at this one. Schneider, 20 machine, CMRC.de leading the way. Alex Rebel second, 44 machine, half a second back, and he's been half a second back pretty much this entire race. Dare I say it, this one will come down to pit stops.
It's gonna, I think, more towards traffic. I think that, because for example you have Michael Thomas as well catching those two guys in front quite steadily. So it could be a 3-horse race as well in the front. We'll see. I think traffic when GT1 is coming through is going to be more determining the outcome of this battle than pit stop's going to be.
Yeah. Gap has come down actually. Schneider is 3 tenths of a second, although that's one of those parts of the track where the gap naturally does come down through Bridge Corner. This is the slowest part of the racetrack. Through Vale. In towards that double apex right hand of Luffield. And you know what? I remember reading in a magazine article about Luffield and just how so many people don't understand how difficult Luffield is until you've driven it in a race car, because it's one of those corners where you want to get yourself on the gas pedal about 2-3 seconds before you actually can. If you try and scrub those rules too much, it's game over for you. You've got to be so patient for that corner. And yes, this track has maggots, it has Beckett, it has cops, but really Luffield is that corner which is the unsung hero really of the Silverstone racetrack.
It's a very difficult corner, not only because you don't know when to go on throttle, but you also have a small bump on the apex there. And some guys are using a different line that makes it very deceiving whether you're gonna lose time or gain time compared to that guy. And especially if you have other classes coming up ahead of you. For example, if you are in the HPD, you don't know whether the 4GT or the GT1 ahead of you is going to take an early or a late apex or a double apex, or if he can get the power down decently or not. So it's a very difficult corner, but a very important one.
Trouble on the racetrack. We've got an LMP car upside down. That is the number 34 machine. It looks as though he ended up taking another LMP driver with him in the mix in a secondary incident. So let's have a look then. This was the number 34 machine of Mathieu Prudhomme into bridge. Loses it on the back end of bridge there. You can see just trying to get that car off the racetrack. Then another LMP machine just T-bones him. And now I believe that was Victor Lopez who's brought his car on towards pit road. But well, scary incident and the final sector of this racetrack. And let's get a look then. On board with Victor Lopez, number 35 machine. Tries to slow it down. Nothing he can do. And that's going to be game over for the number 35 machine.
Yeah, it's a shame we lose 2 cars on the same go. And I have to say for Victor Lopez, nothing much to do. He saw it's a very fast part of the track there for those cars. And he saw a car spinning there and he couldn't react and choose the right side of that spinning car, so it's nothing much you could do.
Kevin Siggy just set his fastest lap of the event so far, 136.193. Scored currently 3.5 seconds behind the number 17 car, who's currently running himself 4th place in this field. Just an interesting note there that the top 5 in your GT1 field, their fastest laps are sequential there, so doesn't look as though anyone is out of position based on pure speed. Pit stops might be an interesting thing here later on in terms of this event. Antoine Hegelen isn't allowing Lando Norris to really get away with this one right now. He's still within a second as we're getting ourselves close to halfway distance.
Now it's going to start to be interesting, because now you can already start to do your pit stop strategy. Do you pit earlier to avoid some traffic, or do you really want to run the tank dry so you're running a longer time on a lighter car? So you have to pick your battle here if you want to go the strategic route or not. Actually, he already took his pit stop, so that's going to be interesting to see where he's going to be. Yeah. And I think, for example, Jonathan Fuller took his pit stop as well already. So the two Corvettes already pitted. Do they have some problems with their tires? I have no idea. But they can destroy it. I don't know what the direction is and how it's really affecting them. I think the direction is somewhere from the south, yeah. So they will have tailwind on Hanger Straits. But it also means you're going to have tailwind through Maggots and Baggots. That's not a good thing to have. You want to have some more downforce with some headwind there. That can be difficult for your front tires there because you have to rely more on mechanical grip. So that can be interesting to see towards the end of the race. I have no idea what happened, actually.
Lando Norris is out of this motor race. Apologies there for some of the issues that you just seen, but Lando Norris is out of this motor race. We're on board with him now. This is the replay. Lando Norris is out. Oh, he gets tagged down at Beckett, number 31 machine in GT1. That was Andre Quintana. Brings the car back out on track. Goes onto the grass. Makes second contact. And from there on in, it's game over. Lando Norris, from your race lead essentially, is out.
Yeah, it's so bad to see. I thought we were going to have a very good battle in front of the HPTs with Antoine Hengeden and Lando. I think we'll have to wait until next week to see how that pans out.
Yeah, so that's a shame.
Meanwhile, I've seen what happened to Alex Riebel. He had a spin going out of Cobb's corner with some other traffic involved. Not really involved. It didn't have any contact, but he just had a spin on his own. I think he was trying to get his power down too soon and went on the AstroTurf or something. But he had a spin there.
Yeah, that makes sense because he didn't lose that much time. It's about 6-7 seconds, as we were saying a moment ago. So, two big incidents there. Driver second place in the GT2 field has fallen down. He's coming towards pit road, get some fresh sets of boots. So he will be back out. But more importantly, Lando Norris is out of this event, and I didn't like that one at all. Threading the needle there. Where's the driver? And we've got a car into the wall. I almost knew this was going to happen the second I saw it. Carlos Vegas there is going to be out of this event as well, losing it on the run into Bridge Corner. And that was one where it always looked through the Abbey chicane like it was going to be an incident, and it ended up being it. There it is. In towards Bridge Corner. Carlos Vegas there out of this event as well. And the LMPs all of a sudden are starting to drop like flies.
Yeah, maybe we have our tire degradation coming into play now, and okay, at the start you have plenty of downforce, your tires are fresh, you can really lean on them, but at a certain moment it will stop. You have to be very careful with those kind of tires because of the downforce, you're wearing them out more quickly than you might think so. So I think that this is happening now. We have also with traffic being a bit more spread out. It's more important to not lose as much time with traffic than your opponent, and that means sometimes more risk taken by the HPT drivers.
Well, it's a new interesting situation now. Antoine Hegelin, 3.7 second advantage over Diego Comini. And the question is now, does Hegelin try and play a more conservative approach to his pit sequence, or does he carry on pushing? Because their lap times are almost identical. The time on track between them is 4 seconds right now. Hegelin will stay out and do another lap. That one's easy. Diego Comini will do the same as well. So, your field starting to get a little bit more crazy. Half of your GT2 field have pitted. Alex Rabil, Baslob, Fabien Jumbluff and Stefan Overgaard have come on towards pit road. Schneider hasn't yet pitted. And all of a sudden, Schneider has himself a nice advantage in this GT2 field.
Yeah, it suddenly panned out. I think he can really turn his laps down now. He can just do his pace, just to handle traffic on its own. It's always easier to handle traffic when you're on your own and you can decide what to do instead of being forced to do some things by traffic, opponents behind you trying to push through. So we can just run his own pace and manage the gap to Michael.
Voss versus Niels Kosh remains at about 3 seconds. Last time by, Alexander Voss was slow by 0.2 of a second. We've got to remember some of this GT1 pitch strateginess will come into play as well. Let's ride about half a lap. Oh, we've got a spinner. That's down in GT2. It's okay. Let's ride a couple of corners on board with the driver of Alexander Voss. Exit of left field. Let's ride on board with him down to Stowe. Just having to work himself around the number 25 machine there. Apart from that, not too shabby for Alexander Voss. 23 minutes to go. Top 9 in LMP haven't come on towards pit road. Top 6 in GT1 haven't yet come on towards pit road. So they're playing the long game.
Yep, so there you see, you have two different strategies that is being used here. So some guys are just putting on at the halfway mark to spread it out a bit, while the others are just going towards the try to empty the tank and be on a lighter car more towards the end of the race. So it's interesting to see. I don't know which one is the best one to do. I think for GT cars it's better to avoid big packs of HPTs coming through, so you can pick your moment to pit in. For HPTs, I have no idea because I have no experience in that car. So no, I think we'll see at the end how it turns out. That's something we can't predict at the moment.
Having a look at Sebastian Prohl versus Jeffrey Koolbergen. Hey, as he works himself down in towards Cop's corner. Kohlbergen having to just check up a little bit. Gabor Mex, by the way, has come on towards pit road, which is why these guys have made themselves one place up on your timing screens. Pro through Beckett. Not a bad run. Last time by, though, is second faster than Kohlbergen. Can he keep that momentum up? Well, this is his best overtaking opportunity, and he's not close enough, although Kohlbergen will get traffic at Stowe Corner. He needs to get a good run out of here to keep Pro behind him, and he does. He's able to put that car to the right-hand side of the track, and now all of a sudden, the driver, Sebastian Pro, is going to struggle just a little bit. He catches that lap traffic at the wrong point. But Gabor Mex then, making himself a pit stop. Yeah, it was Gabor Mex who's made himself a pit stop. There we can see him down in 8th place. And Neil Andrews is on towards pit road as well now, Joris.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say. I think Gabor actually tried to avoid some traffic there as well. I thought he saw that he was going to take some traffic going into Magnus and Beckett's, and then she just decided, yeah, I'm going to pit now and try to avoid that traffic through that fast part, because that's, for the HPTs, that's the most important part of the track. If they are between GT cars, they're going to lose very, very big time there.
There you can see 36.2 seconds on the lane, 13 seconds for the pit stop for Neil Andrews. Out and away he will go. Here's your race leader, Antoine Hegelin. Gap is 3.6 seconds. Last time by, 1/10 of a second separating them lap on lap. Team GT in second place, Apex Racing leading the way. 40 minutes now done in the stint, and Antoine Hegelin will stay out and he will do another lap, as will Diego Comini. Daniel Benefield in the 3rd place on track right now. Radicals Online staying out to do another lap as well. Robert Harris. Yo, that's going to be an entrance on towards pit road. Well, I've seen crazy pit entries, but that was an interesting one there.
Yeah, he just got a bit too soon on the throttle. That's something I told before in that corner in left field, that you have to be careful with your throttle application, and that was something we saw there. He managed to catch it. He lost a bit of time, but not too big. His heart rate will have increased a tiny bit though.
I don't think he actually intended to come on towards pit road, to be honest. I think that because he slid in that direction, he just decided, you know what, I'm just going to come in. And he's out and away, 13.1, 36.1 seconds on pit road overall. On track he comes into nothing, really. So Robert Harris just going to have to run in no man's land, really, for the last 18 minutes of this event, unless anything else changes. Niels Koch still leading the way in GT1. Still got Schneider leading the way. Schneider, by the way, has really flexed his muscles over the last few laps, and now 7.1 seconds is the gap between himself and Michelle Thomas in the number 42 machine.
Yeah, he's gaining about 0.7 to 0.9 of a second every single lap, so that if you add everything like that up over the last 7 or 8 laps, that adds up to quite a nice gap towards second place.
Yeah. Just keeping a look there at that gap for the moment. Continuing to pull away, does Schneider. Although we've now got Voss on towards pit road. So Alexander Voss is on pit road, coming in a lap before his teammate. At least you would generally expect now to see Niels Koch on pit road next time by.
I'm not sure. I think the GT1s can go 28 laps, and they're on lap 26 at the moment. With the reduced tank capacity they have. Maybe it's just, again, trying to avoid traffic, although he's going to be behind the Ford GT in a few laps though, so I don't know if it's a very good decision, but it's very difficult to see as well where you're going to come out when you come out of the pits.
You need one of those Mercedes-esque screen showing exactly where everyone is on track, exactly what they're doing. That would really help these guys. Hegelin is on pit road, and from your overall race lead, those of you just joining us, Antoine Hegelin did lead the race, got passed by Lando Norris, and Lando Norris had himself an incident, putting himself out of the event. And now, once again, it is the driver of Antoine Hegelin who leads the way here at Silverstone. Pit stop time then. Expect something in the region of 14 seconds. Diego Comini, by the way, very long pit stop for him. He had a 22.4 second stop. Out and away goes Antoine Hegelin in 13.3 seconds. Betterfield's on pit road. Betterfield might just sneak second place out of this.
I'm not sure if Comedy already has pitted or not.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, thanks. Well, I don't know. Did he take too much fuel? Did he change tires as well? That might be something. I don't know if that's going to be a big enough advantage at the end of the race because we only have 16 minutes left.
Yeah, and he does come out behind. Daniel Betterfield's 2.4 seconds behind Gabor Mex, although Gabor Mex has closed up to the rear of Diego Comini. That gap now is 2.6 seconds with 15 minutes of this event to go. Top 8 then of each of your classes cycling through on the bottom of your screen now. We've had some good racing at the start of this event. Still got a couple more pit stops to go in your GT1 field. Kevin Siggy staying out as long as he possibly can, as well as Jorge Montanez in the number 10 machine, which is why they are showing as a little bit out of place now in your GT1 field. They'll be on pit road probably this time, Joris.
Yeah, I think so. I also noticed that Rance has overtaken Dustin Hickman further down the field in GT1. That can be significant once everybody in front has pitted as well. So we might see Rance Brookman being in P3 or P2 over in his class after the pit stop cycle.
Yeah, and there's the gaps in terms of your GT2 field. Worth noting also, Marco Mogren hasn't pitted, Schneider and everyone else has. So Mokran would likely come out somewhere, I'd say around P4, P5. We'll keep an eye out on that one. As Kevin Siggy does indeed then come on towards pit road this time by. And here he is. In he comes for his one and only stop. Only 14 minutes to go. So pretty much bleeding that tank dry.
Yeah, it's very close if you can make it to 28 laps apparently, and he managed to do it. Niels Koch didn't, or he didn't want to. That's something I don't know. Again, there are several things a driver looks at before he decided to pit, and apparently it's either the fuel or traffic or both.
GT2 car just behind him. Thankfully behind him, not in front of him, coming out of pit road. And Siggy will come out in P number 6. No one really around him to cause him any difficulties as he circulates back out on to track. That puts Niels Koch back into the racing lead. Marco Mogren, by the way, as we talked about, still hasn't pitted in that Radicals Online number 24 car. So he's still going along there. Not pitted. You can see that graphic there on your screen at all. He really does need to be in probably this lap, however. In terms of other battles, Rens Broekman versus Jürgen Franks just kicked off. 2 tenths per second between P3 and P4. Spot the podium on the line.
I think Rance has managed his tires a bit better, because I know normally the GT1 cars don't change tires. That might also explain why he was a bit slower towards the start of the race. He was just trying to save his tires and not really pushing through for a position.
Staying on board of him through left field. Let's ride a couple of corners on board then with Broekman. Well, the situation for Brakeman really is that yes, he would have gained maybe a bit more tyre, some advantage in terms of tyre management, but he's going to lose that by sitting behind this driver of Jürgen Frank for more than about 2-3 laps already, Joris.
Yeah, he really needs to push through now, because we are reaching the end part of the race. We only have 11 minutes remaining, so I think about 8 to 9 laps for these cars. He doesn't really have that much time left to gain any places anymore. I'm even afraid that the two front runners are gone. They are, I think the only thing he can battle for is P3 in the race.
Michael Mogren comes out right behind the driver on Michael Thomas. When I say right behind, let's say 4 tenths of a second. On board then with Mogren. He pitted late, just wasn't enough for him.
Meanwhile, Rens is trying to take the inside into Caps, so it doesn't really work out, because he was trying to take advantage of traffic coming out of left field, but it didn't really work out. Maybe it does, because we also have that HPD going through, or trying to come through.
Yeah, and the situation was Jürgen Frank just got himself all forms of wrong out of Caps. Now, Brokeman allows the LMP car to go, I would say, a corner too early, you know. Hold your line, make them wait, because now Brokeman's fallen back to 1 second back. That's costing him any chance, not only this lap, but next lap as well. So Brokeman not doing a good job here in that number 1 machine. Let's go back to Mogren versus Thomas. 4 tenths per second remains their battle. Lap times there aren't going to be too comparable because of the fact that Mogren had come out of pit road that last time by. But this will be an interesting lap. Can Marco Mogren do anything over Michael Thomas? Let's listen on board of him through sector 1. You see, Joris, this is where those slow speed corners could have helped a driver like Marco Mogren here. He's losing out because of these. The fact that most of this lap is really medium speed right now.
Yeah, it is, especially for these cars, for GTs. They don't really have that much of downforce, so and he's trying on the inside, and they make contact.
Oh, spinning around, an LMP driver out there as well. Looks as though that we've got a retirement out of it. Mogren continues. No, Mogren's out. Mogren's out as a consequence of this. Let's try and get ourselves a replay of this one. Lots going on all in one go. Marco Mogren. Let's have a look from the crane cam. And well, this is that opportunistic part of the racetrack. Number 24 machine, and Mogren sticks the nose in. Just where there was nowhere to really do so, to be honest. As a consequence, scattered cars everywhere. Mogren's out of the race. That's a bit of a shame. It does mean that Bastelop's now into your top 5. Nick Thiessen is up into 2nd place.
Yeah, I have to say it was a bit too opportunistic in my opinion. Earlier on you mentioned, by the way, that it was difficult to compare an outlap with a flying lap, but it's easier to compare the in and out lap of one car towards the end of out lap of the other car. And I noticed that Marco Mogren lost a massive 11 seconds compared to Michael Thomas there in that sequence alone. So I don't know why he lost 11 seconds.
That can't even be the driver being caught on towards pit road. That's either an incident or too much traffic to deal with. Thiessen, 2nd place now in your GT2 field has moved up and has been a beneficiary of everything around him. Brokeman versus Frank. This is now really close. On board then with the driver of Ren's Brokeman. Don't go threading the needle, guys. Come on. Oof, that was really close for a moment there. Yep, let's go back into line. Although that is second place overall now. Going to try and work around. And as it stands, it's going to be interesting because the Team TG driver probably wanted the inside line into Loffield, putting the hurry up button to the SimRC.de GT1 car, Jürgen Frank. But Frank there did the perfect thing of holding his own. Because it would have been so easy for him, Joris, to just say, okay, I'll let you take the inside line into Loffield. You hang out to dry on the marbles on the exit of Loffield, and then essentially would have been in a position where you could have been passed into cops.
Yep, I wouldn't do that either. Just stick to your line, and if the HVD really want to take the inside, that's going to be quite some contact there, I'm afraid. No, you have to stick to your line, especially as a GT car through that corner, because I think even for both classes, the difference in speed is not that big between in that corner. So.
Yeah, indeed so. Keeping an eye though on this battle because it continues to rage here for third place, the final step on the podium. On the rear now of Jürgen Frank in that SimRC.de machine on the exit of Club Corner. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're in Birmingham in January for Autosport International, RaceSpotTV will be there from the 12th to the 15th of January 2017. Join us at Autosport International or online for RaceSpot Radio, coming to you live from the NEC Arena in Birmingham, England, as we'll be providing you with interviews and updates from one of the world's biggest trade shows, that is Autosport International. Hopefully have some drivers lined up from around the sim racing community, around the British and European racing communities as well. So join RaceSpot Radio and iRacing at Autosport International. There's my plug done for the day. Jeffrey Koolbergen looks like he's out of the event. So that's a shame there for Koolbergen. Just trying to have a look at his car. It does look as though he's got some form of damage and he is out. Hegelen continues on. 10.1 second the advantage now over Comini with 4 minutes to go, Joris.
Yeah, I think that battle is gone for the top position. Maybe if we have some dodgy traffic ahead, but I'm not sure. I think Antoine will take it quite easy now. Although he has a teammate of Diego in front of him now at the moment, so that can be interesting to see.
Comini second place, Gabomex in third place in terms of your LMP field. Let's go back though to this battle for the moment. Just being split up by LMP traffic again. This is one of the frustrations of being a GT1 driver, Joris, because it's a little known fact that the Corvette is actually my favourite car on iRacing. The one that Ren's Brokeman is driving right now. But being a GT1 driver, it's so frustrating at times because you get passed quite often by these LMP cars. But when you come up behind a 4GT, it's a tough ask to try and get past them at times. And Brokeman's trying to do all of this work to close himself up, and it's to no avail. It's been for the last 5 or 6 laps now.
Yeah, I know. I have the same experience in the Neo as well, and when we have to try to overtake GT3 cars, and the GT3 cars can actually brake later than we can, and they have sometimes even a higher turn speed. So we have to really battle through the GT3 cars to go through the field and even have our own battle in our own class. I noticed though that it looks like that HVDs are a bit more aggressive towards Rans. They are really sticking their nose into positions where I really wouldn't like it, but that's something you can't really decide. You can't really impact that. So.
Would you say that's aggressiveness though, or just the fact that they know the type of driver Renz is, in the fact that he is, I'd say, a cautious driver, but he's a respected driver, so they know that he's going to have some heads-up thinking on him?
Yeah, that's something. It's difficult to say. I know from Vance that he's very good in traffic. I learned that in our own races, and I don't know. Maybe some guys know him too well because he's always on the broadcast.
Yeah.
So, but I have to say, Jürgen is struggling with traffic as well at the moment. So it can be very interesting to see what's going to happen with, for example, this Ford ahead.
And that's one of those things as well, very quickly, whilst we've got a moment. The difference between an hour race like this and a 6-8 hour race that you see with things like the Neo Endurance Series or a 24-hour event. In a 1 hour event, you've got to go, it happens now. In a 6-hour event, it's less important because you will have yourself far more opportunities to go and overtake and make the move. So the urgency level is far higher at a track that's difficult to overtake anyway in what is a comparably pretty short race.
Not only that, but you also have live race control there as well.
Yeah.
So if you do something very stupid, you're going to be penalized there. And if you're not really very, very, very stupid, you can even be disqualified from the race. So I think that's a very good way to keep things in check. This is not something we don't have here. We only have the iRating and the safety rating that can keep up with trying to keep the drivers into a normal way of driving.
I'll tell you one thing. Antoine Hegelen crosses the start-finish line with 4 seconds remaining on the play clock, essentially. So we are going to get another lap. And there are some drivers, when it's this close, there's always 1 or 2 drivers who's a little bit iffy on fuel.
Yep, I know that. I have a teammate that's really wants to cross the line with 0.2 liters in the tank. And he really stands on doing that because he thinks if I take 1 liter more, that means that I lost too much time in the pit lane.
But then if you get yourself a situation like this, when a white flag comes out 5 seconds later than expected, you could potentially be in big trouble. Brokerman versus Frank. He'll go down to white flag for them. In towards Kopp's corner. They will go for the final time in this event. Yeah, nothing really there. The question will be, will they both make it through Stowe corner in the positions that they are? If you can make it through Stowe, I would argue that this battle is almost said and done. Brokeman closes a little bit, but not enough into Maggot. Into Beckett's, they're equal, and then Jürgen Frank actually gets a better run out of Chapel Corner. So that one, for the time being, we can park it, we can put it to bed, we can read it a bedtime story, and we can kiss it goodnight. But for Antoine Hegelen, he heads himself out the final corner for the final time. Antoine Hegelen for Apex Racing will win round number 2 of the 2017 Season 1 ProtoGT Championship. Diego Comini will come home second place in your LMP class. Niels Koch now working himself down towards the final couple of corners. Through Brooklands he will come. In towards Luffield for the final time. And Niels Koch will win in your GT1 field. There he is there, just crossing the start-finish line now. GT2, Schneider. We've been quiet about GT2 for the last half an hour, but Schneider wins in GT2. SimRC.de win out there. There are your winners. And I'll tell you one thing, it's been a good old race here today.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of entertaining battles throughout the race, finishing with this Brookman against Jürgen Frank. So that was fun to see. It was very interesting to see as well because you had 2 different cars there involved.
Indeed so. Just the last couple of people then coming past the start-finish time. And let's have a look at your final race results. We'll start, of course, with your prototype field. Anton Hegelen wins out by 10.7 seconds over Diego Comini. 3rd place, Cabom X. 4th place with Daniel Betterfield. 5th place to Neil Andrews. Rest of your LMP field coming up on your screen. In the end, Eurus, it looked to be an easy win for Antoine Hegelen, but Lando Norris, of course, that incident robbed us of what could have been a fascinating finish.
Yeah, it's too bad he had that incident, and I knew that traffic would be a major talking point here, and I think that's something that we already see during the chat we have with the stream as well. Um, yeah, too bad. Lando was, in my opinion, was doing a very good job through traffic, but it didn't turn out good in that one time.
Yeah. Now let's have a look at your GT1 results. And well, Nils Kosh wins that one. It says by 3 laps. We know how these things work. But Kosh wins from Alexander Voss, Jürgen Frank, 3rd place, Rens Brokerman in 4th. Interesting to note, only 2 Corvettes inside your top 10. So Aston beat Corvette today.
Well, there are only 2 Corvettes in the whole race, so it's difficult.
Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's a bit disappointing to only see 2 Corvettes in the race. I like to have a bit more of a mix-up in the class.
And that's one of those things as well, that people will pick the car that they think is best for them. So a track like this, we talked already about the fact that an Aston should have it in terms of the key portions of this racetrack. The run out of Cobbs through in towards Beckett's, Maggots, Beckett's, Strappel, then into Stowe. So, yeah, the Corvette might be better in Sector 2, but you can't really pass there. And the thing about the championship is, of course, they can pick Aston or Corvette week on week.
Yeah, that's we often see that discussion in the forums, and I don't really have a personal opinion about it. I think this is still a hobby to do, and it's more fun if you can really do your own stuff. So, I don't know.
In the end, Schneider was first on race day there for the GT2s. Nick Thiessen second, Michael Thomas in third, Bastlob in the 4th position. Stefan Overgaard rounding out your top 5 in terms of that field. And well, it's been a good day for the ProtoGTs with the first 30 minutes of this event. The second 30 minutes, a little bit calmer for them, I would say, overall.
Yeah, at the end, Maximilian really ran away with it. I think also because Marco Mogren had that incident there later on with I don't know with whom it was. It was with I don't know anymore. That was a bummer for them again, or else we would have had a 3-horse race, in my opinion.
Yep, just having a look then. Waiting for Maximilian Schneider is going to come and join us now from simrc.de in just one moment's time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacingLive. In fact, he is here now. So, Max, welcome to me for winning in GT2. Talk us through your event.
Yeah, hello. The race in Le Mans wasn't the best race. I didn't have the best setup, so I thought let's move over to Silverstone pretty early. And yeah, as it turned out, I had a really good setup. On the Tuesday, I ran a race on Tuesday, and it was pretty good. So I thought, yeah, it could be a good race. But when the qualifying started, I thought like, yeah, I was on P6. That wasn't really good. So I don't know. I don't have the qualifying pace, whatever. But after I think 2 or 3 laps, I was on P2 again. And then yeah, the HPD traffic. The leader lost it. Who was it? Alex Riebel, yes. And yeah, then I ran my race. And yeah, had to take a new windshield because it was really dirty after about 6 lap or something like that. That's really incredible. You don't see anything with a dirty windshield after the update. But yeah, then I just cruised around and won the race.
Well, it's been an interesting event for you here today for the reasons that you've already said to us. And I really like the fact that you talk about you working yourself through the field, because we talk about how this is a difficult track to overtake. But in practice, how hard have you found it to make a move here?
Yeah, in the race, I was really lucky. I got some guys on the hunger straight because they didn't have the momentum, and they were fighting in some other places. So in the race, I really had some luck, I have to say, but in the otherwise, I think Nick Thiessen had a really good setup on top speed. I think I couldn't have passed him really without his mistake. I don't know what he had, but yeah. But this track is really incredible. Also with the HPD traffic and the GT1s. Yeah, with the HPDs it's really scary. Yeah, I don't want to drive the track for a long time now because I had some hairy moments.
Well, we've got some tough tracks coming up. Next one of those, of course, is Road America. That one, in some ways, helps the Ford GT more because it is more stop-start for about 70% of the lap. The scary part, of course, is run down to Canada. But do you think Road America going to continue this form that you've got from Silverstone?
Yeah, I think I can continue that form. I mean, like, there are about equal drivers in here, so it will be a nice championship, I think. And yeah, Road America is a little bit wider. I think it should be a little bit easier, but you don't. Yeah, let's just see how it turns out.
Thank you so much, Sam. Alexander Schneider winning here today in the GT2 class. Before we let you go, Max, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to Home Racer and Simatok, and yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Joris, next week, Road America. This is a track that, in terms of overtaking, makes it easier for all three classes. However, it isn't easy all the way through. The section out of turn 6 and towards the hurry downs. The section out the carousel down into Canada. The section out of Bill Mitchell Bend to the start or finish line is tough to navigate traffic.
Yeah, there is also, it's a bit narrower there as well, the track, and I think some of the faster cars can have a wrong look about the pace of the Ford GT through there. I didn't practice there yet because I think I'm gonna try to race there as well next week. But of course, the kink is very, very dangerous as well, because if you go a bit too wide there, you're immediately on the grass, and if you spin there, you can, I think, collect 3 or 4 cars at the same time.
And the worst thing that could happen is an LMP driver putting pressure on a GT2 driver who literally has to dab the brakes into the kink. Then that pressure on the GT2 driver can sometimes force him to just go the tiniest bit wide, pandemonium around them.
Yeah, that's something that happens quite a lot in the kink. And also, if you go to Canada Corner, I don't know the name of the next one that's over the crest to the left before the final one.
Bill Mitchell Bend.
That's, yeah, thank you. That's a very difficult one as well, because you go over the crest, and it's very difficult to put your power down there. So that can be interesting as well.
Well, thank you very much to Joris Thielen for joining me this evening. Thank you very much to everyone who has watched the broadcast. If you don't see it before Christmas, then we hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week in the rundown to the start of 2017. However, don't forget, we have still one more action to come, and that will be Friday night. It's Formula Renault 2.0. It'll be here. It'll be live on RaceSpotTV. It'll also be streaming live on iRacingLive. So from myself, Will Benson, and from yours, we will talk to you all next time. Good night.